Hey everybody, this is Neff, and we're on a special Arsenal podcast, and we have special guests with us today. Um, we have Ian Flood and Erin Pellon from Yacht Club Games, the makers of the new game that just came out, Shovel Knight. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Crazy,
Yeah, just
overwhelmed, but
uh,
doing okay.
yep.
Yeah.
Things are going all right. There's the game's out, but it still feels like it's still in the middle of development. Just handling support emails, handling like possible patches, looking into all issues of the game. Now that it's being played by so many people, even something that might have been like very far under our radar is being like experienced by somebody like once every week or something like that.
Right.
So it's pretty fun. It's a fun environment.
Yeah. So I mean, like in terms of like the feedback so far, have you gotten like any feedback and positive feedback, negative feedback?
Oh yeah, it's been like an overwhelming amount of positive feedback on the game. I mean, when we had 1.0 ready and we knew we were like going to submit it and that it was the one that was going to go live, we were really happy with it. Or like I was happy with it. It's one of the like stands as like one of the finest games I've worked on. But just to see the overwhelming positive responses to everything from players, from backers who've been with us for like an entire year and a half, to somebody who purchased it on Steam last weekend after hearing about it. We received like an amazing amount of just heartfelt responses. Somebody like saying that the storytelling was great, or that they loved one character, or one mechanic, or just the whole overall game was. It's continuously amazing, and we share it with everyone on the team as we find it.
That's awesome to hear. I can tell. Like, I mean, what about you, Aaron? What do you what like how do you feel about the responses?
Well, I look at the fan art more than anything because I do illustration on the project, so it's really awesome to see these characters that other people are taking into their own hands, like King Knight smashing Plague Knight's face or something like that.
I haven't seen that one.
Or whatever. They're just doing things that I haven't, that the game doesn't have yet, but it's really exciting to.
Yeah, it's like it's the game has taken form, like it has life, and now people are drawing their own conclusions for it. I've seen a lot of Black Knight fan art that has the red helmet glowing like a visor, and that's not something I imagined happened. But now that I've seen it so many times, like maybe that is the coolest way for Black Knight to look.
So you said that you did some of the illustrations on there. Like, what are you guys like exact roles in the project, like on Shovel Knight?
Well, we all participate in the design and creation of the game, but I do the high res art, and I do some concept stuff for the most part.
Yeah, Erin has been involved with pretty much every piece of illustration that you've seen regarding Shovel Knight. That isn't.
So you mean like that splash page where we have like the villainess, like the wizard chick? That
Yes.
was with that picture, that splash page. You did that?
Yes.
Yes.
'Cause that was awesome. It looks like old school like Western art mixed with like that anime touch.
Thank you.
Like, in terms of the shading and stuff like that, it looks damn good. Like I'm impressed. Seriously, like you guys, I'm really impressed. Yeah.
And actually, speaking of the art, I'm just curious, since you saw a lot of user-created content so far, have you guys happened to see the Shantae and Shovel Knight dancing picture yet, the GIF?
That was actually made by Nick Wozniak, who's the pixel animator on the project. We made that during Shantae's initial Kickstarter launch to help show our support.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Which is another game that's actually another game that I kickstarted. I can't wait for that game to be finished as well.
Oh yeah. I can't wait to see what they turn out. It's they had a pretty strong Kickstarter showing, and I wish them all the best.
It's exciting. They're like our friends. They're our brothers.
Oh, yeah, you guys. So you guys are former WayForward employees, or?
I was a programmer at WayForward for the past 4 years before starting on Shovel Knight at Yacht Club.
Okay.
And I did some concept and illustration and various things at WayForward as well. So that's how we met, for the most part.
Fantastic. So let me ask you a question. Like, what made you guys, make Yacht Club Games? What made you guys say, hey, it's time for me to move on, from WayForward and start our own developing team?
Well, we were all working at WayForward in multiple capacities on like different teams or on different projects, things like that. And we didn't really start working together until Like a lot of the team worked on the same project, which was Blood Rain Betrayal, which was the 2D reimagining of Blood Rain. I wasn't on that one
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, that,
But then Double Dragon Neon, that was one that came out about last year or the year before, and that was the first time that we were all working pretty much as the core team on that project. And I think just overall through the entire process, we worked on how to work with one another, if that makes sense. Like
okay.
we had a flow going. Like we knew like things that we found were funny, like made it into the game and made the game better. We knew how to like bounce ideas off one another, how to like pitch something, and how to compromise and make sure that the game can be the best that it can be. And after that project wrapped up, we just by the way the things work over there, our team was going to be scattered to the wind because WayForward does a lot of original IPs,
Right.
but they also do a lot of licensed games too. And for licensed games, it's mercenary work for hire kind of stuff. So if a project needs 4 programmers, then a project gets 4 programmers. It's more important that everything gets executed properly and in time than it is for like a team to work together, because you don't really need like that kind of unity to make like a movie tie-in game or to make even like a cool licensed title like Double Dragon. It's still a licensed title. So we thought through it and realized that rather than scatter like the good teamwork that we've had, that we would try to do our own thing instead. And we broke off and formed Yacht Club Games instead.
Right. So with Yacht Club Game, in terms of Shovel Knight specifically, so the same, the same type of situations you're talking about with like the team, like certain resources and stuff. How was it, having how was it finding, getting the resources together to make Shovel Knight?
It was kind of the other way around. We knew we wanted to make games together, so we started brainstorming what we could do, and we were actually working on a different side project completely unrelated to Shovel Knight for about like a good couple of months. But we gathered around and realized that it wasn't coming together in the way we wanted it to, so we stopped working on it. We completely shelved it, and then we sat down again and said, okay, what could we make? What could this team make? What would we be like? What would we excel at? What would be the best thing we could possibly put forward? And so we created Shovel Knight out of the resources that we had, rather than try to staff up resources to make the project.
Okay.
And I think that probably brought about its own blend of just something that was a really strong debut title for us, because we were able to focus on our strengths completely rather than trying to set a high guideline and meet it at every moment.
All right.
So when you were in the design process of Shovel Knight, was the 2D platform your initial design? Was that your initial deciding factor, or was there other things you were looking at as well, other than platforming titles?
No, I would say 2D platforming and like that style of gaming is very strong in all of our minds. It's a genre that WayForward in particular that it excels at, and so we like most of my industry experience comes from like 2D animated characters, platforming, and things like that. So when we thought about it, like what would our team be best at, that was among one of the top.
So we didn't ask you originally, but now that Shovel Knight is out, and I know you said you're having, developing issues and you're solving problems and so forth, but your overall reception, how happy are you guys? Are you ecstatic this is finally out and it's doing well? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I wake up every day and just see all the amazing things happening around Shovel Knight that either I had a part in or I had no part in at all. There's countless, there's like great YouTube clips popping up. There's people doing Let's Plays. There's Twitch streams going on, and all of them are like encapsulated adventures of Shovel Knight. There's a group of followers who are already following that personality, or who like are seeing it for the first time, and they're all like getting on board with the adventure and reliving it. So it's I don't know, it's been pretty fantastic just to step back and see it all happen.
Yeah, it's nice to have the outside world, give us feedback finally after we've been enclosed and working for like a year and a half. So it's really uplifting to have people responding to how hard we've worked, and to finally give it to people, because we've been so swamped with work and we're such a small team. It just feels like it's never ending. Mm-hmm. But it's a good feeling to have everyone say thanks for making it.
Right. So I mean that's fantastic. I mean, a year and a half. I mean that's a long time, to be developing a game. And I mean, things can't get emotional. I would assume. because that's project that y'all put y'all's blood, sweat, and tears in, So
Yep.
For sure, yeah. I'm used to most of my projects wrapping up in about a year. So this one isn't too much long, like a year and a half is rounding up a little bit,
right.
but it's still, since we're going to be working on it for the next couple of months with updates and content updates, I think this will probably be one of the like longer projects I've worked on.
Right.
But it should be exciting. I'm excited.
So would you consider Shovel Knight indie game still?
I mean, Yacht Club Games is an independent developer. We made this game and published it as a standalone entity. So in that respect, yeah, we're like, this is an independent game. However, the more we see it, the more it seems that like the title indie is bringing on its own like connotations that maybe aren't making too much sense anymore. Like Transistor came out, and that's an indie title, but it's also like being pushed really heavily by Sony. And Supergiant is like they're an independent company doing that thing, but a lot of like that doesn't mean their game is more valuable or less valuable. That just means that they're independent, and that's the game they decided to make. Now that we're seeing like big companies make smaller games and small companies make like really big games, I'm not sure how much more like if that title is providing any more detail. What do you guys think?
Yeah, because we have this conversation all the time, and we look at the word indie, and we're like, so what does that mean anymore? Like you said, Transistor, Bastion, Guacamole, Chasm, Hyper Night Drifter, and all these games that are coming out. It's like, what's indie anymore?
Right.
What is the classification of this just genre anymore?
Right, and I mean, some people associate it with smaller budgets. Some people associate it with like a more passionate team. But then you see something like Child of Light, which I think is a smaller team at Ubisoft, working on something that they're really passionate about. And they are independent, but is that like an indie game? Or like what? How does that label really apply? When
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, like it is a video game, and you can like learn this and this about it. And it's usually used to like paint. I've seen it used more often to paint the games broadly, which is like an indie game will never win Game of the Year from me, is like something somebody might say. But that's like all that's doing is like closing out an entire branch of thought.
Exactly.
I wouldn't say that somebody might say that because a couple knuckleheads actually have said that, and it makes no sense. It shouldn't make a difference if it's an indie game or not.
And yeah, and I understand where they're coming from, which is that they're like in their minds they have a very specific idea of what an indie game is, probably based on indie games that they've played, which is that maybe it's smaller in scope or maybe it relies on like previously released genres. And if that's what they're applying it to, then that makes total sense in their worldview. But since the indie title can take so many forms, it seems like maybe it could, I don't know, be a bit more nuanced a term than it is right now.
Right. Well, I mean, a great game is a great game,
Exactly.
Whether or not you consider it indie or big or AAA, whatever,
Right. I mean, we need more indie we need more indie open world sandbox games to like really take it in the other direction.
Yeah.
But I think is it Open Sky?
Indie Grand Theft Auto,
Yes.
as you were, right.
Wasn't what is Open Sky? Is it the one that's procedurally generated like space exploration and planning?
Yes.
That's like.
It looks
is
great.
that an indie game? It's like, oh, it's just like a dumb indie game. It's like, no, it's just as big as almost anything else you played, or at least that's where it seems like it's heading right now.
And that's another title that's being heavily pushed by Sony because I thought originally it was coming to the PC and also PlayStation 4, and now it's just coming to PlayStation 4 with the PC in limbo. I mean, but the game itself is, from everything that we've seen, is phenomenal, especially the random generated worlds. That's just like, for example, say somebody streaming it on YouTube, and every time you see somebody stream it, the world is going to be completely different. It's always going to be a brand new environment, a brand new gameplay experience. That is a fantastic idea.
That seems really exciting to me. I'm glad that game can exist, which has a bunch of like procedurally generated concepts, and a game like Shovel Knight or Bogar the Viking can exist, where it's very strictly made gameplay content. So long as the industry exists, so that both games can find their audience, I'm pretty happy.
Right, and then you have like Minecraft, which just steamrolls through everything, and I don't even know what to call Minecraft. It's just
right.
It's an indie game.
Yes, it's an indie game. Is that really? They could open a Disneyland, I'm sure.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that was actually the first game that actually put that out there. And it's like, hey, is this an indie game? Because all the money that Notch basically made off that title, it's like, what is it anymore?
Yeah, that game is a titan in terms of just its just a
An independent
success.
type.
Yeah, it's a success. I mean, success. I mean, independent or AAA, whatever. That thing is just making a whole mess of money. You know.
Let me ask you this, and this is something that we debated a while, other people as well. There's a saying in your site that says industry is experiencing a renaissance and creativity is flourishing.
Mhm.
Now, I see a lot of, again, going back to indie, where a lot of them are doing like Metrovania type games or games that genres that really you wouldn't see big companies or AAA developers work on. But then you see an indie company do this same exact title and it does well. You know,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
All right, so you mean why don't big companies go after these game concepts that clearly work?
Yeah,
Like that
exactly.
this is like a valid business thing? Um, well, I think it's a matter of bigger companies are looking at a bigger picture, and that's like, and they're completely in their right to do so. They're like, that's a good idea. For them, if it makes more sense to put out a big like glitzy open world game that promises a lot, if they can get more people playing that, then they should go for that, right? If they have the resources to execute on that. Just because a game is successful for 5 developers to make doesn't mean it would be successful if 80 people and a marketing department made it at a large studio. Uh, a lot of times it's not about breaking even, or it's not about like making a game that's good. It's about making a game that's like successful for the long run. So I guess that's where I see it. Like basically, bigger companies tend to think bigger, and sometimes that leaves those genres like that out by the wayside. I mean, I don't know the specifics of it, but you've heard a lot, or at least I've heard a lot, that Konami tried for a long time to get the Castlevania portable games like into a larger market, and that's why we saw it change form so much from Game Boy Advance to DS.
Right.
Do you remember that like Game Boy Advance opened up with Aria or Circle of the Moon, which was just like a Castlevania that had a little bit of Symphony of the Night trappings. Then it went all in on Aria, and that was using like the traditional Symphony of the Night art style and things like that. But once it made the jump to DS, it had a more anime cartoon style, and I think that
Like
was
like Order of Celia and stuff. I forget what's the name. Order.
well, no, even Ecclesia brought it back, but for Dawn of Sorrow and Portrait of Ruin, it had more of like a Saturday morning cartoon look, and that was, even though they were making games that everyone regarded as like the really strong contenders for that genre of game, it wasn't making the jump to the big market, or not as much as it seemed like they wanted to. So they were trying to capture more audiences. It wasn't until Ecclesia where they brought it back and tried to reestablish its art style. So even making like really strong entries like that might not be the best option for a big company all the time.
Right.
Yeah, and I said earlier that Way Forward breaks up its teams, but I think that's probably a very real thing in all companies. Like a different director could have a different aesthetic or a different design, and they could be going different places. There could be 100 heads pulling 100 ways, and then you kind of don't really get the nimbleness that you do from a 5-man team. And it's harder to congeal everybody to go a certain direction.
Yeah.
It's like a multi-headed dragon that you're trying to slay, and plus all the fans, and it's very difficult.
Right. I can imagine. I mean, a lot of these. I mean, you hear these tales of a lot of these nightmare development cycles for certain games, and you just got a whole bunch of just overkilled resources for certain games, and sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes the game does come out and it's just not a successful, product, whatever, and so I can imagine, you guys want to keep it small, and so like you said, you can be nimble, that makes sense. So
Well, let me ask. I gotta ask him a question.
all right.
So you guys worked with Jay Kaufman.
Yes.
And the man is a musical genius. I love all the music he's created, all the works he's done. How was it working with him?
Well, he's fantastic. I mean, I've worked with him on projects at Way Forward all the time, and his, let's see, how can I describe it? I guess his level, his attention to detail on elements of the game, his desire to be a part of the implementation is not something, is like a very rare part that has such a tremendous effect on the game. Double Dragon Neon, we were in like the last couple of months of development, but he moved his entire computer station just behind mine, so much so that like I couldn't move my chair without bumping into him, just because he wanted to do a fine-grained pass on every element of the game as we were experiencing it. So it's like, oh, like the grenade noise is kind of weak, actually. Hold on, like let me add 50 more Foleys to it, or whatever it is audio people do. In addition to just like like Jake gets excited about projects. He's not like looking for a task list. He's looking to like get his entire brain wrapped around it. For Double Dragon, we had the concept of mixtapes being used as power-ups. And this was only because the game was like an 80s, 90 kind of tie-in gag. But he's like, well, if you're going to have mixtapes, I better write like 18 unique songs for it.
And they were fantastic. That soundtrack was mind-blowing. I love that entire soundtrack. And it took me back. It's like, oh, wow, listen to this.
Right, and that wasn't something we wrote on the bullet-pointed list of what we're going to deliver for the game. It was just that like mixtapes would be the primary thing, and he's like, mixtapes, that sounds like it's music. Okay, I'm going to write all this music now. Like, leave me alone. And he would go away and do it and come back. Great stuff. That and involving the entire team on the process, like bringing in Sean, who was the director, bringing in Jeff Luke, who was another employee at WayForward, to sing for some of the pieces and like be the voices of some of the characters was like a lot of fun. And he brought that in spades over to Shovel Knight too. He was, I would say, I was not expecting the game to have 55 unique songs in it when it started, but when I look at the track list, it seems like that's about where it ended up. So yeah, I guess that his level of enthusiasm, his dedication, and how seriously he takes his work, while also for somehow not being completely at all serious, is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
it must be a lot of fun to deal with that.
Yeah,
he's a story guy, and his narrative really sets the pace for the game as well. And even though it doesn't have words, his music tells a story for each level. So he's a critical part. He's the sixth man of the team as far as we're concerned. So we just love having him over. We wish he would come over more, but he's always busy. You know, he makes work for himself.
He's involved with a lot of projects. Yeah.
I can imagine.
I mean,
so
yeah, he's great.
I gotta ask. So, what's next for our hero? What's going to happen next with Shovel Knight?
Shovel Knight is going to be updated over the next couple of months for both like just maintaining the game and also adding the new all the stretch goal content. We have things like battle mode, which is a 4-player local battle mode, challenge mode, alternate playable bosses, and gender swap mode and things like that. Okay. So I think we're going to keep adding new free updates to the game just to I guess, entice people who haven't made the jump and to just provide more content for everyone who was on board so early.
And we're not ready to let go yet.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of more Shovel Knight talk happening around the office. That's for sure.
That's good to hear.
So is it do you have any plans to release them to the consoles like Xbox Live or PSN?
Yeah, I mean it's in the back of our heads. We want we just put an update about this recently, but we want the game on as many platforms as possible. Like the idea is that we want Shovel Knight to show up wherever is best convenient for you. Right. If that's on your Xbox or your, I don't know, your Chrome browser, like we'll figure it all out.
Right. What about the handhelds?
Yes, Vita would be possible. Nice. I would love to see Shovel Knight running on like an OLED Vita now that that's become everything.
It would look gorgeous on the Vita.
Yes, it would.
Oh yeah, for sure. I played Retro City Rampage on there and like loved the way the colors, like the whole NES palette and pixel looked on there. So I'd love to see Shovel Knight join the software library. Yeah. However, we'd love to do that, but it's no small amount of work. So it's compared to like getting the Nintendo versions out in more regions, localization and content. Those are kind of on a backseat right now.
And we have Mac and Linux support coming from virtual content too. So that's the immediate.
Yeah, we have some stuff that we promised first before we can get to just some of the fun additional platforms.
Right.
Speaking of getting on multiple platforms, I don't want to say it's rare, but it's usually an unusual circumstance that somebody puts out a game anymore on the Wii U. How was developing Shovel Knight for the Nintendo platforms? I mean, did you get any I don't want to say flack, but is it difficult or?
No difficulty really. No more than like supporting any additional hardware. We contacted Nintendo really early during the Kickstarter because we knew that Shovel Knight was a game that we like felt strongly that belonged on those consoles. Like having it on the 3DS and having it on the Wii U, we felt that it had a place there just because of the types like the game harkens back to the NES days, right? So
Mhm.
there's already a fan base there that like would be looking for that kind of content. The fact that Virtual Console is going strong on Wii U and 3DS means that there are players who are like used to playing 2D platformers, used to looking at pixels, things like that. The fact that NES Remix 1 and 2 came out during Shovel Knight's development was kind of a happy accident for us.
Right.
Just because it refreshed everyone's ideas of what like a retro game could be or what's exciting about them, what's fun about them. But I mean, now I think we're seeing a lot of titles popping up on the Wii U more regularly. I think Armillo and Guacamelee just came out today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mario Kart 8 rounded it out, earlier in the month. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the console come into its own.
Right. I mean, it makes sense because like when I looked at Shovel Knight, it looked like late cycle NES or very early cycle Super Nintendo type
Right,
graphics,
right.
you know.
Yep, I mean that's what we were going for from the beginning.
Yeah. And so
it
it would make sense to have it on a Nintendo platform, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought it was suited, and we love the controllers, and Nintendo's been really good to us. So
It just seemed like a natural fit.
yes.
Man.
No, I gotta do is find an NES game, NES controller for my PC.
Okay, so
hook it up.
So speaking of Nintendo like games, okay. So what I'm hearing a whole bunch of things on the net, the inspiration for it was like Castlevania, Metroid, etc. Like from the horse's mouth, from both of you two. What was the inspiration? What was on your mind, game wise, like from the past?
Well, I mean, I had an NES growing up. I don't know if I was just late to the party or anything, but I was playing all sorts of Nintendo games, and I think like all of us, we just had an ingrained knowledge of like the overall experience. So we weren't thinking at any point like this level is going to be so Castlevania it hurts, or like we're going to rip off Mega Man so hard for this mechanic it's going to be awesome. It was more like we had the mechanics in the world and we started to flesh it out, and when we were filling in the blanks, we were like keeping an overall idea of like what was exciting about playing games back then. In addition to, I mean, we've been playing plenty of games since, so also drawing from more recent experiences and back.
Right.
I mean, I played Castlevania as a kid, mostly Dracula's Curse and a little bit of Simon's Quest. I only had Mega Man on the Game Boy, so whenever I see Mega Man, I wonder why he's so small on screen and why everything isn't blurry when he walks. But I also played games like Codename Viper and like Blades of Steel and Volleyball and like a bunch of other NES games that don't tie in exactly in terms of like a platformer, but still have a common visual aesthetic or a way of handling effects or like an expectation for how the game flows and works.
Right.
So it was important to keep like just the overall experience in mind.
Right.
I don't know if you have any particulars.
I don't know if a lot of my games from the NES really made it out to the Shovel Knight per se. I know Zelda 2 was a really big inspiration for a lot of the team, Sean especially.
Mm-hmm.
Mega Man 2 was a huge mark that was like, don't know if we're ever going to be able to be as great as this, but let's try. And then Castlevania. I played Joe and Mac, I played Rally Bike, I played some fishing games like Black Bass and whatever. But it was, I don't know, we just wanted to stick with the color palette from the NES and try to be pretty true to it. So it was a big compilation of all the NES, really. It was the NES era.
Right. Of course. I mean, had this game come out back in like 1989 or 1991 or something, it would have been big. You guys would have been probably on your like 15th game and had like 5 spin-off games or something.
Yeah, we would have had a weird Western cartoon of it.
Right.
Like
exactly.
that.
It would have been a horrible cartoon,
Oh yeah, it would have been like no saving it. It would have been
awesome, but it would have had an awesome, 80s intro,
Yes. Yeah, he would be like riding on his shovel blade like a surfboard for some reason.
Exactly. You had a spin-off game like, Shovel Knight Paint,
Right. Yeah.
Wow, really?
What you're talking
Shovel Cart.
Yes.
And what you're talking about, that is true because we were trying to make a character game. We're trying to make a game called, like, the game is called Who the Main Character Is, and that's it. Like, it's Shovel Knight. That's the game. And that goes back to a time where those kinds of things popped up all over. But we haven't really been seeing it too much since.
Right. So let me ask you guys a question. Like, are you like, I know you guys are very busy, developing, games and stuff, but are you guys gamers yourself? Like, do you still find time to play a lot of different games, or you
I
know?
hate video games. Uh, I can't stand them, and I'm so glad this project is over. No, no, no. I mean, I've been playing video games during the project, after the project. Right now, I recently purchased Transistor. I'm going to get into that. I
Mhm.
was playing Mario Golf on 3DS. I beat Dark Souls 2 about a month and a half ago.
Okay.
So I would say I'm still, now that we've, I guess, emerged from the depths of game development, I've had a bit more time to just play through a lot of games that have been sitting on my backlog.
Right. What's some of your what's some of your aside from Shovel Knight, what's some of your favorite games of all time? The both of you.
Oh man, I love Legend of Mana. It's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, it's a
Wow,
great game.
take it back.
Smash Brothers original on N64.
Mhm.
Pokemon Yellow especially I loved. Um, I'm not sure, just a bunch of oddball games that have a lot of a lot of world building and
Yeah.
odd characters sort of thing.
Yeah, I always have trouble picking out just like distilling a top list of games. I grew up with a family with four other siblings who also played video games.
Right.
So when I think about delving into the library, we didn't just have like 8 or 10. We had like a box of games because like when it was my older brother's birthday, he picked up Chrono Trigger, and when it was my younger brother's birthday, he got Final Fantasy VI. So
Oh,
I felt like I was like there was a great amount of games around, and so I never really like picked one and said like this is it, this is my favorite, this is what makes games like this is why I like video games.
right.
I played a lot of platformers, like a lot of RPGs, but I don't know if I could really distill it down into just one or two titles.
Okay. Nah, but I
It's
mean,
too much of a commitment for me. I can't do it.
All right,
it
well,
makes sense. It makes sense. But
what about
kind of
looking?
get an idea of the kind of games you guys really liked. Uh, you know.
I
Uh,
like play. I get a I get a big kick out of working through mechanics in games. Like I really enjoyed Final Fantasy Tactics for the first time because the idea of combining child classes in a grid and just like seeing the rewards of that kind of progression was like immensely satisfying. I even enjoyed like the Disgaea series and even most of the weirdo Nipponichi strategy
Yeah, I
RPGs.
love Nippon. Yeah, I love Nippon. I'm
Yeah.
very finicky with my RPGs. I'm not a big RPG guy, but I'm very finicky. I'm very finicky with them. Like I'm not a fan of the Final Fantasy games, but I love tactics.
Right, right.
Yes.
Oh, I understand. Yeah.
And I like strategy RPGs like Disgaea, because I have pretty much I have most of the Nipponichi games. Like I have Makai Kingdom.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. Like I played that Soul Nomad. Like a lot of them are they're like weirdly broken, right? You're
yeah,
like, oh, is this going to be like as solid as the other one? It's like no. If like once you figure it out, like you'll be max level and done.
yeah.
And that part is actually like really appealing just to see different mechanics, different concepts applied like that. Um, I like playing fighting games for mostly the same reason, which is
Which fighting games are you on?
I originally okay, we had Street Fighter 2 and Tournament Fighters, which was the Ninja Turtles one back on
Right,
the
I
Super
remember that
Nintendo.
on the Genesis and Super Nintendo, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Which
I
one did
remember,
you have it on? Super Nintendo or the
oh, I had
Genesis
Super
one?
Nintendo, so they weren't super
You
great.
had the good one. You had the good one.
I remember, but I only remember playing Street Fighter 2 enough that when my brother accidentally teleported as Dolls in, we both put down the controller and like backed away because we were so amazed by that concept. And to this, I think my brother to this day still does not know how to teleport his dolls in. But every time he would play,
You need to
he would
learn.
mash all the buttons because if that just happened once, it was like an instant surprise victory just because it was so amazing to see it happen. Or whichever character can do that. I think you can teleport in Super. Yeah. Um, then I was playing Guilty Gear for a while. That was like where I learned how the mechanics work, just because it had a very fluid combo system.
Yeah.
Playing Street Fighter 4 recently,
We all
and
picked up Street Fighter X Tekken when that came out.
right, we all tried to get on the
Fight
hype
sticks.
train. Um,
I mean, some things, better than others.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they all have their place in the grand ranking of fighting games.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear, you guys are on fighting games because, I'm like, as far as games of all time, like I would have to say, like I'm a huge Street Fighter head. Like
Oh,
I
excellent.
love Street Fighter to death. Like that's my favorite gaming series I would have to say of all time because it's the only game series that I've been playing since I was like since like '87 when it came out, and then '91 when Street Fighter 2 came out. I've been playing that since forever, and I got every Street Fighter game there is except the EX games, because I don't
Oh,
consider
okay.
those Street Fighter. I don't consider those Street Fighter games. But
Yeah, I think you're right to pass on that.
right. See,
You
I'm
don't need
not
to
the
master
only
Cracker Jack
right.
or
I'm
Skull.
not the only one, right? So I'm a huge Street Fighter. Like I know like the history of Street Fighter. I know so much about it. I'm just a fool for it.
I'm not super versed on that, but there are times when we were playing Street Fighter where somebody asks a question about the lore, and then they get angry when I answer it in seriousness. They're like, "What is this deal? Like, why is he doing it?" It's like, "Well, actually," and then I get looks.
Because you have to be real with it.
Yeah, I love the fighting game style of presenting a complete character like that, where all of his personality and all of their traits come together in like idle animations, in taunts, in special moves, and it's just completely encapsulated in that icon that you pick on the character select screen.
Exactly.
There's just so much packed into a single like modular part of the design, and then you can play it for like almost ever, just trying to master it and learn more ins and outs of it.
Yeah, the idea of hitboxes was amazing to me. It broke my brain when I realized like how it works and how it gets exaggerated or how it doesn't, or there's a huge science behind it that's completely invisible.
Yeah.
Unless you really get into the fighting game.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting that when I got into video games as a programmer that I would have to be speccing hitboxes. But like by the nature of just even working at Way Forward, even working at Yacht Club, because there's only so many people to do everything, we all have to like chip in. So I usually end up falling to as the guy who ends up putting in hitboxes, and a lot of that is applying just what I've internalized, just like playing games in the past, which is like how a motion frame works and how the hitbox should trail off it, how sometimes matching it pixel perfect to the art is not the most important part of it. Sometimes you need to exaggerate a hitbox to like make the attack more exciting. And I think you see that probably more than anywhere else in Monster Hunter, when like some of the monsters have like a ridiculous hit check attack, and because of that you're like completely afraid of it, even though it doesn't look like it should hit you.
Right. I agree. So, but speaking of that, like doesn't it, like I know you guys love what you do, and I know you guys put all of it, but doesn't burn you out? Like I think that if I were to start making video games, I wouldn't want to play them anymore. Like I would just like, oh, I'm done. It doesn't burn you guys out. Guys don't say, oh, I'm done with video games. Get out of here. You don't do that. You don't do that after you complete a project.
It's extremely easy to fall into that trap, especially when you're working on something and you just hear about, like, when you can't think of an idea without somebody telling you that they've seen it in 10 other games and that it was lousy in all of them, or when it feels like you're just playing the same game over and over again, or when you're playing something and you're not really sure why people like it yet, kind of a thing. It is easy to feel like to get into that, but I guess that's just one element of things you have to balance when making video games. Is just like you got to make sure that if you like something that you get into it and really like it, and like keep that in your mind, the times where you're really excited about video games, and don't let that be overpowered by the times where maybe you're not so keen on them, or why you're burnt out about it. Like the small things, take note of the presentation, or like the mechanics, or the multiplayer experience. And a lot of times when I see something I like, I'll keep it in my mind that like I hope I can work on something that cool in the future. And that thought process of like moving forward and like making better games based on what you've played is a strong element to like keep motivated.
Right, because I can imagine, like, just you talking about the hitboxes, like just me imagining me just working just on trying to get hitboxes right. I'd probably be through. Like, fuck Mario, fuck video games, get out of here. I couldn't. I don't think I could do it, but you guys obviously, you got more stamina, I guess.
Well, just I mean, any craft involves a certain amount of diligence, right? Once this is over, you guys have to scrub through it and make sure the audio file is all put up, and like that everything like recorded fine and things like that, right? And it has to go up on the website with a description, and it needs to go out to all the right people. That requires the same amount of like diligence. That's not the part you guys were excited about when you started doing this, but you understand that it's what's necessary to make the best possible thing.
Right.
And so just making sure that you are, I guess, excited about the right things, and also you understand that some things need to just be done and done right. The biggest part about just staying passionate.
Right, because there's a lot of little. Oh, I'm sorry, Erin. You was about to say something?
I was gonna say, I feel like it's a lot like running. I do some running on the side, but like you just can't stop running when you're halfway to home. Like you just have to dig in deeper, go harder, put in more of it. We're all our worst critics. Like we all are extremely. We want to do the best for everyone in the team. So when something isn't working, we get kind of down on ourselves. But it's really important to be able to kind of wind yourself up and to go harder actually when you want to quit. In order to keep everyone afloat, because we're such a small team, we can't start falling apart.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this, going back into gaming real quick. Is there anything that's coming out in the near future that either you are excited for?
Let me think here. Is there one game that like I'm definitely super pumped about getting? I mean, I'm always excited to play Smash Brothers just because there's so many people around me that want to play it. Especially, maybe you can relate, but it's very tough to get people to play fighting games if they don't want to play fighting games, because it's
true.
When you bring it in, it's like, hey everyone, like, are you ready to learn how to solve this problem? It's like you play it and it's like, yeah, I played the game for 10 hours, so I'm going to beat the person who's only played it for 5 minutes. So his only solution is to buy the game and play it for 10 hours. But that's a huge amount of investment, or like at least 4 hours, and learn what I'm doing. But Smash Brothers is universally accepted by players of all types, so I'm always excited to get that one. Like somebody will play Little Mac even without caring too much about how much they spent in training mode. So I'm excited for that for sure.
Yeah, because this new one looks great.
Yeah, it looks like they're pulling out all the stops on this one.
Yeah. And I'm not a big Smash Brothers fan, but it looks fun. I've played all of them, and this one looks like it's something that would be a little fun.
Yeah, I mean I play Smash Brothers as the most casualist of casual players. It's like, oh, like I want to chase the Smash Ball and I want to try the attack, and now I'm dead. I don't play that with the same tenacity that I would a fighting game or anything like that.
I played Smash Brothers with my little sister, and she, to get her to play any video game I thought was amazing. So when we would be on the same team kicking the computers, but was kind of an amazing revelation for me especially. But
as far as games coming out in the future, though, I mean, we might have been submerged for too long. What games are you guys excited about?
I'm excited about that new. I mean, being at Watch Dogs was a bust. I'm kind of.
Didn't really pan out in your mind?
Well, no, I'm waiting for that Tom Clancy's The Division. I'm really.
Oh yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. And,
so is that like an open world, or is that like a bunch of missions? I remember seeing it on one of the show floor streams. That's the one where it's like a multiplayer, exploration kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's kind of open world in a way. I mean, obviously it has certain. I'm hearing that you can pretty much go anywhere, but I'm sure that it's probably due to level progression. You probably won't be able to go certain places until you've.
Right. Everything has its limits.
Yeah, until it's for the level. Until it's for the mission. Until you have to do it, go there. But it looks phenomenal, and. I love I love all types of games, but it's like certain games like that, like military type shooters and stuff, those kind of speak to me,
Great.
and I'm really looking forward to that. What else am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to Forza Horizon 2. I'm a huge racing game fan. I love racing games.
Jake actually is too. He loves those.
Jake Kaufman is a racing game fan?
He'll race with the best of them.
Weird auto games and
you got Truck Simulator.
No, you gotta put me in touch with that dude so I can just race him. We could talk about music because I'm a huge music dude.
Oh, great. I think he really likes those for unwinding. Just the idea of the Forza, any of the, I forget which the other ones he was playing, but he gets into them from time to time for sure.
Yes, when he has any moments.
Sweet, yeah.
Come on, now, if you got more games than that, you're looking for.
I'm kind of nervous because we got gaming celebrities here, and I can't think straight.
All right, then I'll graciously ask you to move aside, and I'll talk about some of the things I'm looking for. You know me, I'm mainly a PC guy, so there's a lot of stuff out there I want to play.
Okay.
You got what? I want to see if Dragon Age Inquisition is any good.
Yeah.
The last Dragon Age was a flop, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Alien Isolation, I've been following that for a while. That game itself is just that, you're in that environment and you don't have any weapons and you have aliens chasing you, and I'm hoping it's so much better than, again, Colonial Marines that,
Pretty low bar, unfortunately. But it does seem like they're taking this one pretty seriously, so I'm going to see how it turns out.
What else? Star Citizen. Big Wing Commander fan there.
Okay.
Evolve.
Yeah, Woz is pretty excited for Evolve, the pixel animator here. We spectated it a little bit at E3, but we haven't really sat down and played it.
I went to PAX East earlier this year, and I could not get near that game. Every day I was there, I was like, I want to play. Like, no, get in line. The lines are around the entire place. No, thanks.
Yeah, the asymmetrical multiplayer style of it seems like it could be really compelling. From it's like taking the Left 4 Dead versus Special Infected to like an entire new level, right? Yeah, I'd really curious to see how that all pans out.
What else was it? There wasn't too many of them. Below. I don't know. Have you guys heard of that game?
Oh yeah, the one by the roguelike by
Cappy.
Cappy.
Yeah. Yeah, like we first started talking about, I'm a big Dark Souls, Demon Souls fan. I actually didn't get a chance to play that during PAX East, and I enjoyed the way the game played. It's just a little weird though that it's top down,
Right.
top down roguelike, but it works.
But that's the original roguelike, right? That's where it all started.
Exactly, and it works, So I'm excited for that to come out. Beyond that, there's not really a lot other than what you already mentioned, Forza Horizon 2. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Another racing game, Drive Club. But that's about it so far.
That sounds like a solid lineup. Hopefully there's a few surprises that drop in, right?
Yeah.
Especially
and unfortunately, another game that I have to mention, but my friend's going to yell at me. I'm sorry, Neff.
I'm getting ready to yell at you. Okay.
You know what it's going to be, right?
Say it.
World of Warcraft or Lords of Draenor.
Sorry. You said you were not going to play World of Warcraft anymore. It's over.
No,
do it. Play it.
I'm tired of you now with World of Warcraft.
How far do you go on World of Warcraft? Are you like doing end game rating? Do you just play to the level cap? Like how far in are you?
I used to be a pretty hardcore raider. I stopped.
You was an addict.
I was not an addict. How can you be an addict when you
were
have
an addict? You needed it. We gave you. Guys, listen. Ian, Erin, we had to give this guy intervention, like he did drugs or something. We had to sit this guy down and say, "Hey, Hacks, this is not cool. You're hurting us."
God. Don't make it sound like that.
We had to help you. You promised us you wouldn't. You was like, "I'm done, guys. I'm done with World of Warcraft."
To be fair, I stopped playing it for 5 months, and it wasn't. How can you be an addict if you have 2 kids, a wife, a house, a dog?
That's why you were an addict. That's why we had to intervene. That's why we had to intervene because your kids were coming second to World of Warcraft.
Oh my God, my kids were
making you were making your wife cry. We had to help you because you're a buddy.
I had my roommates in college and my friends in high school were all big MMO vets, almost like to a fault. Where they played EverQuest, they played all of those. I remember they got really excited about even the ones that didn't pan out, like Vanguard Online. They were there on day one. They were there for they tried to get Conan the Barbarian or Conan Online to be really excited about that. Warhammer, they keep trying to find the next one, but they've never. Between EverQuest Vanilla and World of Warcraft, they haven't found one that filled that spot.
There isn't one, just like the recent Wildstar. I'm sorry.
Will Guild Wars ever try to come back?
It did come back. It's not doing so well.
It didn't come back. It tried to make it.
It did. Guild Wars 2 came out, and then they had a couple of different.
Nobody cared about it.
No, yeah, unfortunately.
And I used to play Guild Wars 1 when it came out.
Holy cow! You just admitted that.
Yeah, I did. I didn't stick with it. It was I played it for a couple of months, and then I just got bored with it because other games came out that were more my taste and stuff. And but it was okay. It was my first MMO, Guild Wars, and it was my last MMO. But it was cool. It wasn't a bad game. But hey, let me ask you guys a question. How the heck did you guys come up with the name Yacht Club Games? Are you guys rich? Do you have yachts?
Yeah, we're in it for we're in this for the money entirely. We can't wait to cash out and just drive around golden yachts. By that I mean it was sort of done tongue-in-cheek style. We believe ourselves to be pretty down-to-earth people, and we just wanted to make video games, so we went with something that kind of played against that, which is an erudite, fancy pants kind of company and logo. But we hope that it wraps around, and maybe people just associate Yacht Club with games of high quality and of a certain expectation. So
Yeah, the
That'd be so
logo we
cool.
made into its own character. We call it the Snooty Boat, and we talk through the Snooty Boat to everybody, and it's like an all-encompassing club. We're all in the same boat kind of thing.
All right. Okay.
Well,
Well, I mean, that's a great answer. I like that.
I like it. I like the name because I've seen in the comments and in public discussion people say it's the worst name they've ever seen, and then right under it someone say that's the best name I've ever heard.
Yeah,
So
like I
the
can.
fact that it could ride that line between terrible and okay is really special.
No, it's a cool name. I like it. I can imagine like some kind of old rich dude. I'm going to. I love Yacht Club Game.
To the yacht club.
I'm going to buy a shovel knife too.
well, let me ask you this, because I got a couple friends that are actually into game development. We actually both know a couple that are actually trying to get into game development, and they asked me to ask you guys, is there any advice that you would want to throw out there for people that are looking to go that route?
I mean, my understanding of it at this point, although it feels like the industry itself has changed so much, is to make games is like probably the biggest thing you could do. Like start projects, appropriately scope them, try to like complete them, try to finish them to a point where you're happy. It doesn't mean you have to release them for money or that they have to be up on a big storefront, but just to have an idea, to like design it out, to execute it, and to like finish it is a big step. And to keep doing that over and over again, you're going to hone your proficiency for it.
Right.
Learning to work with a team is like an extremely important skill. That can, especially for working with small teams like ours, is like it's such a vital skill, and it's difficult to learn because you can't learn that in a textbook. But learning to pitch ideas, to discuss concepts with people, to not get like defensive about your concepts or like what you think the game should be, and to like let ideas flow freely, or just to communicate how work should happen, is such a critical part to like making a project happen successfully. So you can actually focus on the game dev part of it. So I guess make lots of games, practice like working in a team, and like genuinely try to improve yourself on that front, and like pick a proficiency, pick something you're good at or something that you want to be good at, and keep trying it every day.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tools out there, so people that have a multifaceted skill set can make a game all on their own, but that might not be the best choice for everyone. Like I'm a programmer, and I don't think I can do art, so I want to do better at programming, and so I work towards that every day.
Okay. Fantastic.
I guess that's where I would say.
That's a great piece of advice. Let me I got two more questions for you. I personally have two more questions for you guys. What got you, like, you're a programmer and you're an illustrator. So what got you guys into the first place? Like, what made you learn programming? What made you learn illustration?
You want to take it?
Yeah. Well, I was kind of a shy kid. I didn't speak much in school, so I would spend a lot of my time drawing, really. And when someone would tell me an idea or something, and I could put it on paper for them and give it to them, and they would be excited about it, it was like this. It was a gift that didn't cost me anything,
Right.
And I really enjoyed doing that. So I started picking up doing commissions for people. So the strangest ideas would come through the internet, and I would draw it, and I would try to put the best ideas from those ideas into the drawing and give it back to them, So, and then I watch a lot of cartoons, Disney, anime, and plus video games. So
Awesome.
really not surprising.
Awesome.
For me, I guess I had access to a computer when I was pretty young. Like our family happened to have one. It was an old one that only displayed black and orange.
I remember those.
And I remember playing like Math Rabbit and Test Drive on it and all that, and just finding that to be like immediately exciting. But even like when we had like a Windows 3.0 machine, and we had America Online when it was like still not quite in everyone's household. So I guess
I remember that.
So, yeah. If you want to buy Shovel Knight, go to AOL keyword Shovel Knight and download it from the Antagonist Gaming Network.
I'm so glad those days are over. Oh man.
So I guess I had access to technology around me for a long time, and I always found that to be really exciting and something fun to work with and tinker with. I had a few games that had design elements to it. Like the Incredible Machine, you could make puzzles and like hook up all the contraptions to make something that somebody else has to solve for. I remember making multiplayer levels for Lode Runner, for my
Lover, that's a classic.
And I think there was like and just like a bunch of small like weird games. Like there was a Zelda online game that had a level editor and a scripting system. So I remember like learning some of that and getting into game logic through that. And from there, they were like then like my middle school was offering programming classes, so I took them. My high school was offering programming classes, so I took them.
Sweet.
And it was just something I was like, I guess I had like at least a slight knack for and an interest in, so I just kept doing it. And after graduating from high school, I realized that I was playing video games a lot and I was programming a lot. And I think like the idea of combining those made a lot of sense to me. And now that's all I do. So yeah, I guess it worked out.
So when the Hackers movie came out, what were you saying about it?
I've actually never seen that film.
Good.
Like, I feel like I need to get to it though.
No, it's a hilarious movie. It's because it's so bad, it's hilarious. You know,
I'm always down for that.
It's a classic piece of a bad film. You know, but that's awesome. That's amazing. Because I mean, were any of your parents like programmers or into computers like big or anything like that?
I mean, there was a computer in our household, so I would say definitely that at least my father had an interest in computers, but I don't think it was from a programming side so much as like hardware interest, software interest, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no one in my family. My uncle, I think, was involved in software development, but I don't remember much. Like, I don't think I talked with him much about that. I just remember that he had a machine that ran Wolfenstein for the first time, and that was like, I walked down there. We walked up to his spot while visiting for like Thanksgiving, and he's like, "Hey, Kevin, come take a look." And it was my father and me. And he's like, "Watch, there's a dog. Die, lassie!" And he pressed left click and he shot it, and it died. And I was like, 8 or 9. And I just like looked at the screen like, "No, what happened? What is this?"
You killed a dog.
You killed a dog in a video game.
Did you guys happen to play the new Wolfenstein that just came out?
No, nothing like that.
It's pretty great.
I've heard really great things. It's like a return to form for.
Oh my God, it really is.
Of shooting, first-person shooter style.
Yeah.
I'd probably give it a try. I think once I'm on cooldown again for FPSs, that might be something I take a look at.
Yeah. Erin, what about you? Or were you like any artists or anybody in your family that?
Yeah.
That you were able to relate to art-wise?
Yeah, I'd say both my parents are pretty artistic. Neither of them are illustrators. My dad's an architect, but we had a family that loved computers. My uncle had computers. I had paint before it had colors in it, so it had like weird halftone shadings and stuff. And my mom always drew on my lunch bags and stuff for school. And I was just always surrounded by people who drew stuff on pieces of paper when we were out eating at restaurants or something like that. So we would play games with like, oh, what does this weird scribble look like? Turn it into something that isn't like a shoelace, a snake, a piece of string, or a face or something like that. So it's kind of like, what do you see in this paint blob kind of thing. So it was a way to communicate, really, which it is still. And that kind of kicked me off, I guess.
Awesome. So your dad was an architect?
Yeah. There's a couple pieces of art that he made in college, and if you know anything about drawing in college, the kind of assignments they make you do are outrageously difficult and all this stuff. So he had a huge picture of tomatoes or something that he drew, and he said it took him like 3 months or whatever to draw. And I asked him later on about it. And, he doesn't do stuff like that too much anymore, but he's very technically proficient at drawing, which I don't think I totally am. But yeah,
I have to disagree with you, Erin. The stuff I'm seeing in Shovel Knight is awesome. So you're up there. You're up there. So I mean, anytime I hear somebody's dad's architect, I was like, is he awesome like Mike Brady?
Well, he designed some pretty big projects that like hospitals and all that sort. So I don't really know how to like get to where he's going, and I'm not interested so much in that kind of art. I love character design and concepts, so this is more where I feel at home.
Right. Yeah, I was like that too. I used to draw. I was drawing for pretty much most of my life, since I was like 3 or 4.
Yes.
And I mean, I was serious because I was like you. I was deep into video games. I was deep into anime. I've been watching anime since like 1991 and stuff like that.
Yes.
Excellent. Good time to get started, I would say.
Right, because I'm pretty old. I'm born in the 70s and stuff, and so I grew up. I was like 14. Well, I was like 13 when I watched my first piece of anime and knew it was anime. Because we grew up with a lot of anime we just didn't know, like Voltron and stuff. At the time, we didn't know it was
Right.
anime.
Yeah.
But,
Just cool cartoons that were like exceptionally cool for some reason.
Right, exactly. So I think I watched like Akira or Vampire Hunter D in '91 or something like that, because I grew up in New York City, and so we had we had a lot of access to like we have Chinatown in New York City, so we had a lot of access to like bootleg
VHS, right?
yeah, bootleg series and movies and stuff. So that's where I got my drawing chops from. I was drawing since I was a little kid, but that's what influenced me. So I can totally understand that. But,
yeah, it's cool, and you can pick up drawing at any age. Really, you can start tomorrow and become great,
yeah,
or whatever. It's only to what you want to draw and how you want to draw.
yeah. But that's great. I mean. Wait, was that the second question? I'm trying to think. Did I ask the questions? Yeah, I think I asked all my questions. Personally,
They were great.
no, you guys were.
We usually don't talk about our backstory origin, so it was fun talking.
Wait, I have one more question. How is your guys' families? Like, how was it? How are you guys' families? Making the game for like a year and a half. I know there were babies born on your team.
Well, I will say Nick Wozniak, our pixel animator, who has come up multiple times to this project, so maybe he should just be the interviewer from now on. He actually had a daughter during the course of Shovel Knight.
Shovel baby.
Yeah, she's actually listed in the credits and everything. Naomi Wozniak. I'm originally from New Jersey, actually, so my family's
awesome.
Yeah, my family's mostly on the East Coast, so for me, I was kind of just out of touch with most of them for most of the development cycle, unfortunately. But they were all like, I've been making games for a while, but this was the first project that was like publicly out there. So I received, like, whenever a new news story went live, or whenever like the game received a little bit of press or something like that, my family would all hear about it and contact me about it. So I would get like messages from my father saying like, is your game at beta yet? Or like how much of a cut does Steam take from your sales? And just like questions that he was thinking about, because he was seriously engaged in what we were doing over there. But it also got to the point where no matter where I went, people would only talk to me about this game project, and I was just completely underwater with it. Like I wake up and receive a message from my friends saying like, why isn't your game out? And somebody else asks like, when are t-shirts coming out?
Yeah.
Or like I thought like, why isn't it out on Vita? And it was like, no matter where I went, like I feel like the mailman would have said like, here's a letter. Also, like, how much did you make on Kickstarter again?
That's foul.
But it all balanced out now, and it was all because of people being genuinely excited. So.
Right. And the grandma ain't send you no pies or nothing, apple pies or nothing.
I mean, we received.
Actually, one of the other programmers' parents sent us a box of brownies when we were like in the slums of January, and we were all like burned out, but we're only like halfway to go, and it was this huge tub of tiny bite-sized brownies.
That's awesome.
I feel bad because when I think about family interaction, I completely ignored them this past year and a half, but they've done nothing but support me every step of the way. So
great.
I guess I'm a monster is what I wanted to close with.
That's great. That's awesome.
Well, that's fantastic though, because I mean, it's nice that you guys have a family that understands what you're going through and wants you to finish your project versus nagging you every 5 seconds. Hey, are you done? Are you done? Are you done? Are you done?
Well, they were nagging him, but they were doing it out of fun,
They were doing it, because out of genuine interest, and because they in their scheme they didn't know what was going on. I remember the first question I got from my dad was, this was before the Kickstarter was live. He sent me a message saying, "Is your begging site up yet?" In regards to if our Kickstarter went live.
Right.
And that wasn't an attack. That was just like he was trying to summarize the term as best he could.
Right.
Yeah, I could say my parents had no idea what Kickstarter was and like why it's working, why we would ever want to use this service kind of thing. It's just not how they're used to going about a business, like using an internet site. My dad doesn't even like ordering from Amazon, so it's been
What?
Yeah, yeah, I know,
I have to
I've
talk to your dad.
Ash
And
or
I have to
whatever.
talk to your dad now. I gotta say, hey, Mr.
There's hope for your dad. Trust me, because if
You
my
know,
mom can do it, anybody can do it. So there is
right.
hope.
If his mom can do it, right? Because his mom,
There is hope.
yeah.
Thank
But
you.
I mean, great lady, but she
And
has
I honestly, it's kind of interesting that you mentioned Kickstarter. I mean, a lot of projects are now being born thanks to Kickstarter. What
Yeah.
what do you think about the whole thing? Because there are a lot of people that are saying Kickstarter is fantastic, but at the same time, there are people that are saying that Kickstarter was the worst thing that ever happened, and crowdsourcing is bad, and so forth and so forth.
I mean, it seems like saying that the entire concept is wrong is just not the right thing to say, considering all the projects that have been created where both the creators and the contributors have all been satisfied with, or at least like by far and large. I haven't seen anyone say yet to me that Shovel Knight was a waste of their time and they wish it never happened. I only see people that were excited to see it become a real thing, a team that wanted it to become a real thing, and then it took form, and now everyone's playing it, and everyone can enjoy it. So, I mean, it's Kickstarter's like you have to be careful still. You have to like do the diligence and make sure you trust the team and what they're trying to make and whether it's feasible. And sometimes projects don't pan out. Sometimes projects do better than expected, and that's still a part of the game. That's still a part of backing something, of supporting something.
Yeah.
But it's hard to think of like directly slighting the entire concept of crowdsourcing. I still want traditional games to be made, like traditionally funded games, and I would love it if like for other projects to exist on a platform like this too. I don't see why there can't be both exactly.
exactly. I agree. I think like just like with anything, there's good aspects and there's bad aspects. But I don't
Yeah.
think that you should just disregard it just because whatever. But
So, all right, so I got one last question for you. So
Sure.
after all the Shovel Knights have been done,
Yeah.
and the feature, everything has been put out, the DLC and the Kickstarter goals,
Sounds so
what's
nice.
next for Yacht Club Games?
Um, I think usually when we're finishing up a project, we start spitballing new ideas. Like, oh, we should make a mascot platformer that has a character that has totally too much attitude, like Sonic or Bubsy, but like make it so good that people have to like it, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. But we've also talked about just making a multiplayer game or making a game completely focused on like 3DS Street Pass or something like that.
We're doing a smaller game or a different type of game or something to maybe build up our tech in a certain area. I don't know.
Yeah, we spitball a lot of ideas, but what I usually find is whatever we joke about doing is not what we end up doing. We usually come up with an idea that we really believe in like 10 minutes before we need to, kind of a thing. So it's hard to say what exactly we would move on. It would be nice to, I think we enjoy making platformers, but it would also be nice to try something else. We enjoyed working in the NES palette, but I think we don't want to
By the
be
8-bit.
we don't want to just be a retro company that makes throwback games.
Right.
If we have a stronger idea in another field.
We might.
Yeah. So
Another pixel.
or maybe we'll just make Shovel Knight 2 through 10.
hey, yo,
It's like
I'm not
nine-
gonna be mad at you. I'm not. I'm gonna be.
Let's
Hey,
just
it
do
worked for certain
Hey.
other characters we
Yeah.
don't
Right.
see anymore.
What if we put it out just like how Netflix puts out entire new seasons of shows like House of Cards?
That'd be
Like,
awesome.
what if we released 2 through 9 all in one download pack, and you just play through them at your own speed? Like, do what you want.
Matter of fact, make a House of Cards game in the NES palette. I would play that.
I don't know if we could represent all
We
the
could do
speed.
Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey will do anything. This is awesome.
That's an interesting. That's an
He'll do it because he's awesome. He'll do anything. He will do a House of Cards game.
He'd probably be down for it. Oh, we could just put his voice through the NES like chip, so it gets
Right.
all crunched and terrible
Exactly.
sounding.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, that sounds fantastic.
Awesome. I would buy that day one.
So I guess
Let me ask you guys a question. Okay, forget about budget, whatever like that.
on it.
If you can your next game, if you can make it, what type of game would it be? What would be your dream game to make? Damn the budget, damn the concept, just make it. What would it be?
I think even just completely throwing out the budget, I would still want to make a game that's very focused on like gameplay and mechanics.
Mhm.
Personally, anyway. But I don't know what form that would take.
Okay.
Would it be an original IP? I mean, if you had also throwing onto that, if you had access to any license, would you still want to be an original IP or take something that's
I
existing?
think by default I would prefer original IP just because I'm used to working with licenses and I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, but it's like not the most immediately exciting thing to me.
Yeah, I don't really know what I would make. I like Legend of Mana, I like Survival Kids, I like some Harvest Moon or Rune Factory kind of deal, but I would like to kind of make it more engaging for someone who could be more skillful at the game. I don't know, maybe a roguelike, maybe something more like FTL. I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be fun to make a game that's played in runs, that is played like that isn't strictly structured content. That's more like something that you figure out over a long period of time. But that's a pretty vague thing overall, I suppose.
Maybe not 3D, but 2D something.
Okay.
Hey, another 2D roguelike game? Hey, I'd buy that.
No, I'd like I'd like more like a Harvest Moon game, like she said. You know, I'd like to see that, something like that. You know, Harvest Moon is kind of cool.
I think that style of game could benefit from like a new approach. Like I feel like they've been doing a good job keeping it up, but maybe like the idea of being like in a relaxing town and progressing through some kind of system like that could be fun in all manners of way beyond farming.
And you could have Shovel Knight. You know, you could have a guest cameo from Shovel Knight planting some crops. You know,
Right, yeah, it's probably really good. It's
That'd
just
be awesome. That'd be great. Oh man, but I think I'm kind of tapped out question wise. I think I'm gonna try to think of some just so I can keep talking to you guys. But you know,
go for it.
But I think you guys are busy. You know, you got things to do.
Yeah, we do have another thing to tend to shortly, but I
I'm
mean,
doing more drawings, but it's been really fun to talk to you guys. You have great
Well, I got
questions.
another question. How's that then? I'll think of one. Okay, so what are we in? The 8th generation of consoles now? And we have the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One.
Mhm.
I hate to ask you, but I'm going to ask anyway.
All right.
Which one are you more intrigued about?
Currently, I'm zero intrigued about both of them. I was hoping to go into E3 this year with the expectation, with a reason to buy the PS4, but nothing materialized quite yet. So I think I'm still waiting to see what I want to jump on. There's just nothing that like immediately is getting me excited enough to go out on a purchase.
Between the big three, I was really impressed with Nintendo's lineup. So I guess I would go back to Nintendo.
That wasn't part of the question. You're cheating.
No, it's fine. It's fine because she's right. A lot of people have been saying that Nintendo took E3.
Even I'm.
And he's a big Nintendo.
He
doesn't like them.
Listen. I grew up with Nintendo, but I'm not a big fan of them. You know, I haven't been a fan of them for about 17 years ago. You know, because it's almost 20 years that the N64 came out. And
I get it.
Yeah, so I wasn't a big fan of their consoles from the N64 all the way to the Wii U. But I will have to admit that they did a damn good job with their presentation at E3.
It was truly strong booth. A lot of gameplay being shown. A lot of fun.
I mean, they made everybody look like idiots, pretty much. You know, like
Sony definitely had like not in their presser like the keynote exactly, but their booth had just a large quantity of games, and that's always been a really good strong suit of them. I know that when I'm on a platform like that like a lot of content will come my way, but there was nothing that like pushed me over to a purchase necessarily.
Right.
I'm happy with Sony because I hate to use the term indie, but like Hyperlight Drifter was in their booth, and so was Shantae at their booth. So
I don't think it was this year, actually.
Shantae?
Yeah.
There was a big thing that they were showing.
Okay.
Forward had a picture of it. Or maybe it was just in their showing
totally
or something.
didn't see
But
it.
Hyperlight was definitely on the Vita, and I do like the Vita, so I guess I'm sort of towards Sony. But, you know, both of them are getting better, I think.
They need to do a big budget Shantae, like bring it to the main console so I can like have it in all its 2D.
I thought that's what the Kickstarter was
That's
for.
what the Kickstarter is. Pay no attention to him.
You
He's
know,
not
but I'm
paying
just
attention
saying,
to
I
it.
wanted to. It should have been done. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I
Oh.
agree.
You know, it's like they need to like hurry it up because I'm tired of playing on handheld and stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great series. Yeah, like I'm gonna get a PlayStation 4. I'm not gonna get it this year. I'm gonna get it probably next year or something like that. But I'm with Ian. Like, there's nothing that made me say, hey, okay, like, I need to get it. No, right now there's nothing that made me say I need to get it. So I'm with him. I'm gonna have to just wait, you know. I was telling Hacks, I was like, hey man, don't get an Xbox One, but
Oh, come
you don't
on,
listen
man.
to
Leave
me.
me alone. I'm
You
a
don't
tech
listen to
guy.
me.
I'm a tech kid. If it's
Yeah,
technology, I get it.
but
Come
just
on,
because
leave me
you're a
alone.
tech head doesn't mean you gotta buy lame stuff. You know.
Yes, it does. That's the whole
PS4
definition
I
of a tech
understood.
kid.
PS4 I understood because I was like, okay, get a PS4, but don't get an Xbox One because there's nothing on Xbox One.
Then fine. Next time you come over, don't play my Xbox until there.
I'm not. I'm not gonna play a PS4. Play a PS4. It ain't gonna be nothing you could do to stop me.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, but
I just wasn't in a rush to be like starved for games on it. I feel like the PS3 is still getting like Dark Souls 2 came out and there's still games coming out for it.
exactly,
PC and Steam is getting a lot of titles.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
3DS's, Wii U is like starting to get stuff. I feel like if I bought any of the new consoles, I would be like hungry for a game. So it's like, okay, like I don't care about this sports game, but you know what? It's the only game on PS4 right now that I'm vaguely interested in. So like, let's just buy it and have a good time.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like Nev said, I picked up both the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 because one, I'm a tech kid. It's in my blood. Upgrade, it bites me. But I kept my original systems, and I agree. There really isn't much out there that says must buy for either systems right now. I mean, there's some games that are coming out that have my interest, but there still isn't anything that says must buy. And like I said in the beginning, mainly I'm a PC guy, so by default multi-platform games are going to get got on the PC for me. It's just how it's going to go. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I have a home theater PC, which is now my mini gaming PC in my living room, and that's what I'll go do. Like I'm playing Shovel Knight in the living room, and
Nice.
I actually had some cousins come over. They're like, "What Nintendo game is this?" I'm like, "No, this is not a Nintendo game."
And then you bring up the Steam
Awesome.
overlay, and they're like, ew.
Yeah,
what-
I'm playing with the Xbox 360 controller, and I'm sitting back on the couch. I'm like, "There's no cord, man." What?
We're in the future. The future of playing NES games.
And, and they're just sitting there and they're watching me and you're like, wow. I'm like, yeah, Steam guys.
Yeah, I actually find myself going back to play more retro titles recently. It could just be that Shovel Knight reignited that, but we have a place nearby, just like an hour and a half away, called Game Dude, and it's a big trade-in warehouse full of it's like NES games all the way to PS4 games. It's trading in, so there could be like 50 copies of Mario 2 sitting there on the shelf, or there could be Total Recall for the NES, just a bunch of like weird games from everywhere. So these days I'm mostly like when I'm really bored I'll stop in and like just pick something up that I haven't played before and give it a try. I finished like ActRaiser for the first time.
Fantastic game.
Yeah, like I've heard about that one and like maybe saw it once in a GamePro magazine, but never really sat down and played it. So I picked it up for $5 and saw to beating it over the course of like 2 to 3 weeks, and it was awesome.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo has some phenomenal side-scroller platformer games in its day.
Oh yeah. It's just fun to kind of dive through it and pick something up and have like the physical cartridge, so that you're looking at it every day and you're like, I need to beat that one, like I need to finish it. Rather than just having it on Virtual Console or another service where it just feels like one thing you downloaded one time.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah.
But I'm certain like most because I've went back to like NES and SNES and I'm gonna make this quick because I know you guys gotta go. But
Sorry, I didn't mean to imply anything.
No, but it's not even that. It's still I want you guys to I want to kind of wrap this up. But
Sure.
But I've tried going back to like Genesis and SNES, the old consoles that we grew up with, and a lot of those games just haven't aged well, and those are games that ignited my gamer passion, and it's like even games from like the PlayStation era, like the first Tenchu game, I can't.
Right. Oh man, those in particular are those early 3D games where a lot of ideas just were not fully developed yet, like camera control and character movement. Yeah, I totally hear you on that.
Yeah,
and it's sad to go back to something that was so formative back then, but then to find that it can't even relive that feeling when you play through it again.
Exactly, and these games changed my life in a lot of instances. Very few games from that, like the Mario games still hold up, the old Sonic games still hold up, but a lot of other games don't really hold up. It's very hard for me to go back and play them and still see what made them so great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you definitely have to approach them with a different mindset. Like you have to have more free time because the game's going to waste it. You have to understand that sometimes they're just not going to explain concepts, not to be tricky, but because they just didn't have the cartridge space to explain things.
Right.
But I find that that level of like sticking with it and just learning like some of the little things that you just don't see today in some games, that makes it all worthwhile when I'm playing through it. But yeah, sometimes that involves like an immense amount of build up for something very tiny.
Yeah. No, but you're right. You're right. But I just want to say, it's been a super pleasure talking to you too.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thanks for
Thank you.
having us.
It's been fun.
Thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to, sit down and talk with us. 'Cause really, really eye opening, really great conversation.
Yeah,
And, I wish you guys nothing but future, continued success and stuff. And I, hope there's a Shovel Knight 2 and 3 and 10.
we should just
Do
release.
our best.
We should release the Shovel Knights numbered only based on the ones that were good from Mega Man. So we should do
Exactly.
Shovel Knight 2, 3, like 9 and 10, or
Right.
no, maybe just 9 actually.
People like 6.
Well, eight was I have a kind of a special thing in my heart for 8 because 8 was adorable. It was like the cutest game I think I played at the
Well,
time.
actually, yeah. Whenever I think about 8, I always lump in 7. But 7 was like the one where they got it all wrong, and 8 is where they like brought it back and like
Yeah.
fixed it up. So yeah, it's pretty great too.
I mean, like 8 just tugs just makes it's like I'm looking at a kitten. It's just-
Right, that's your favorite Mega Man
yeah,
representation.
it's like it's not my favorite Mega Man, but it's like one of like the most touching in terms of because like my favorite Mega Mans are probably the X games. The Mega Man
okay.
X games, like especially like 4 and 5. Like 4 and 5 were like I was loving that. Because
Yeah.
Zero was awesome.
Shovel Knight
But
X.
yeah, huh? You don't like X?
No,
We should do a Shovel Knight X.
Oh hell!
There you go.
What?
There you
What?
go.
I would what? That would be awesome.
That'd be weird.
take it to the next
Great.
level.
And X looks like X is taller, and like Shovel Knight X is taller, and he's just
He's a bit
and he
sleeker
has
and
like
cooler
a-
looking.
We put about 30% more cool into him.
Right.
and then there's a cooler Shovel Knight, like Zero, like a Zero counterpart, and he's just my
Right.
favorite. And I like him, and I disregard Shovel Knight for this new Shovel Knight Zero game.
Yeah, we make like an intentionally distractingly cool character,
Right.
and then we don't let you use him until the second or third game.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun
Do
thing.
that because that's gonna make me just fiend for him more. So do that,
Right.
yes, awesome. But yeah, guys, it's been great.
Actually, wait.
What?
Before we go, I forgot to ask. We have to ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of all the bosses in Shovel Knight, which one is your favorite?
Oh,
Let's see.
Mole Knight's my favorite.
Aaron likes Mole Knight. Waz likes Spectre Knight. I know that because of just the amount of detail that went into his animations. I kind of like how Treasure Knight turned out, just from a battle standpoint. He's an underwater boss, but he moves like very quickly and has. I guess I just like the way all of his moves panned out.
And I think Sean's favorite is not a boss, it's the super skeleton from Spectre Knight stage.
Right.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, thanks for having us. I enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, it was
I
great.
loved it, guys. Hey, we're buds now, so I'm gonna call you guys for Christmas and.
All right.
Oh, I'll send you a card.
I mean, we'll be very busy working on Shovel Knight and won't be able to.
And I'm gonna call you guys periodically and bug you about the next game. Hey, I'm gonna talk like Gilbert Gottfried. What are you guys working on? I'm gonna just.
Well, if I may, thank you for warning us in advance.
All right.
Good job. Now he's going to blacklist you.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's a
No,
great guy.
not like that. Just
He's a
if
great
I'm
guy.
going to get a call from somebody who's doing a Gilbert impression, I just like knowing that up front. That definitely helps me prepare mentally.
Because I'm gonna totally throw him off if he didn't know. Yeah. All right, guys. But thanks for chatting with us. And,
Anytime. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll
Thanks.
definitely be looking forward to anything in the future from you guys.
All right.
All right. Take care, guys.
Take care. See you now.
See ya.